Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Shelby, and we're going to be talking today about just kind of reflecting on the year thus far. Since it is February 1st, I wanted to make it a goal of mine to keep myself on track with the things that I want to be able to do within this year, to hold myself accountable as well, is to do these little monthly recaps to see what worked and what didn't work over the course of the month. But really and truly, this is just going to be a recap of what I have gotten up to so far. Now, just as a little bit of a background story, just keeping it real and keeping it honest, the start of this year did not go as I thought it would. I thought I was really going to hit the ground running, and I had a lot of plans to really focus on my YouTube channels, making sure that I was putting a lot of work and effort into developing my own editing style, and just really put in more time and effort into what I create. I also planned as well to work more on my eating habits, so developing a healthier eating style, and as well as keeping myself as active as possible, whether that be doing workouts indoors like riding my bike or running on the treadmill or going outside for walks or doing yoga, whatever it was, that was going to be my plan. But it didn't actually pan out to be exactly what I thought. However, I think it was exactly what was supposed to happen. So, just, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I did lose someone very close to me at the beginning of the month. I lost my stepmom, which was really shocking. No one knew. It was like not anything that we could have seen coming. It just happened. And that was probably the second worst phone call that I have received. So, um, yeah, that was just a lot to deal with. And I've been trying to navigate through that and deal with that. And that happened honestly at the beginning of the month. When it was January 4th. I had to think about it for a second, but January 4th is when I got the call. My brain couldn't comprehend, it didn't make sense. Honestly, even still to this day, when I go to my dad's or anything like that, it still doesn't seem real. In my head, I'm like, she's on vacation. She's going to come back. It's not a big deal. But like, then you really think about it and you're like, wow. It's always like, if you've ever dealt with grief yourself, which I might, maybe I'll do a video about this if anybody's interested, let me know in the comments down below. But it's always very interesting when you lose someone. It doesn't have to be a parent or a relative, it could be a friend, just someone you're really, really close to. It You just go through this wave of like a roller coaster ride where there's lots of ups and downs. And some days you might feel fine. And then all of a sudden you shoot back up, or then you go straight back down. And it's a lot to kind of deal with and wrap your head around. But I think it's the hardest thing for me personally is to grasp the fact that they just aren't coming back, in at least not in the form that we know them as. I don't know what anyone believes, and I'm not here to push that on anybody. But it's kind of like, how is that even possible? One second they were here and now they're just not here anymore. I can't pick up the phone and call. Like, I can't do any of that. And I think that is always the hardest thing for me to deal with, because even when I lost my mom, that was incredibly hard. Like, even if you know it's coming, it hurts just as much. And you just kind of feel this really empty void in your being, like deep in your soul, that like feels like it's never going to get any better. It's never going to get any easier. You're always going to feel this way. And I will say this, it doesn't go away, but it does get easier over time. And I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but like, it doesn't become the focus point of your everyday life as as it is when you first lose that person. That's all you can think about. That's all your mind is centered around. There's a lot of reminders of that person not being there anymore. And so it's very hard for you to focus on anything other than that. But as time goes on, that part kind of lessens, which makes it easier to go about your normal everyday life. Although there are going to be times where you may see something or hear something that will trigger that emotion in you again, where you realize, wow, they're not here. So, anyways, long winded there. But because of that, I, I couldn't bother to do anything that I had originally planned. However, with that being said, it doesn't mean that I didn't try to still focus on some of those focus points. I did really try to make sure that I stuck at least with my schedule of uploading videos. I tried really hard to focus on making content, and embracing the snow that we got, which I was so thankful for. I want to share this a little bit here. So, my stepmom and I, we both loved and enjoyed the snow. Like, I remember my first snowstorm with her was like the most fun experience that I had had in the snow, other than when I was a little kid and getting snow days and going sledding with like my dad or something like that. But I had never met anyone that enjoyed the snow like I did. Like, there's something so magical and so peaceful to me when it first snows. The aftermath of snow I know is terrible, but when it first snows, there's something so beautiful about it. And she shared the same sentiment as I did. And I want to say it was maybe 2 or 3 days. I don't know because the time window is all over the place for me right now, but a couple of days after she passed away, it snowed. And for me, when I've ever lost someone really close or important to me, I've always kind of kept an open mind for signs that that person was still around me. Again, not trying to push my beliefs on anybody, but I I think that when someone leaves us in this form that we are in now, that we are energy and that energy has to go somewhere. So in my head, that energy is still communicated with us somehow, some way. With my mom, it's butterflies. Like, I see butterflies all the time now. And I didn't have that experience until after she passed. And with my stepmom, I think it's the snow. Um, we had a conversation not too long ago about how we were really praying and hoping that this year we were going to see some snow, like some good amount of snow, so we could go outside and enjoy it. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, it started snowing out of nowhere. And it didn't just snow once. I think that's what kind of threw me off, because I live in Maryland and the weather here is kind of back and forth. Sometimes we can get snow, sometimes we get very little snow, sometimes we get a whole lot. It just kind of depends. But the last couple of years, we haven't gotten barely anything. If it snowed, it was like a few flurries, nothing stick. It wasn't any big deal. And it snowed twice in like a week. The first day it snowed, it wasn't anything too accumulative. It was like little bits of snow. If I can find a video clip, I'll insert it. Um, but then when I saw it snowing, I was like, wow, I'm gonna go outside because I feel like I have to honor this moment. I've been looking and waiting for the snow, so let me get outside. Went outside on my balcony, and I just had this itching, like, I just need to go out in it and walk in it. And I did that. And as I was walking in it, I thought to myself, I feel like this was her gift to me. Somehow, some way, after everything has happened, all of a sudden it snowed, and just I just had this feeling that it was meant as a gift. And that is just my own personal belief, right? So, moving forward into the next couple of days, they kept calling for snow, and I was like, it's not going to snow. We already got some snow. I don't think it's going to do much of anything. If it does snow, it's going to be a little bit of flurries, but I don't think it's going to be as big as everybody says that it's going to be. It still wasn't big, but this was actually substantial. I don't actually remember the accumulation, but if I do have any clips of that snowfall, I'll insert that here as well. We did get a couple of inches. I want to say maybe like 3 or 4 inches of snow. Um, and it snowed like all day. I remember it was supposed to be my first day back to work since everything had happened. And by some miracle, I ended up getting a snow day because when I woke up, got told that there was a delay. We weren't going to open right away. So don't leave the house until there's any word further. And as I sat there waiting, I kept looking outside and going outside. And I was like, wow, it's just getting worse. Like the snow is getting heavier. It's really starting to stick. And in my head, I was like, I'm not trying to go to work now because the last time I went to work when weather was bad like this, I got into a car accident. So I was like, I'm not trying to go. But thankfully, they ended up calling it and we ended up not having to come in. But I mean, it snowed and I was so excited for that. Like, we hadn't had any kind of substantial amount of snow in such a while that, like, I was like, this is so weird. Anyways, that's a long story. I just started rambling there and I don't even remember why I started rambling about that. But all this is to say that the beginning of the month just didn't go as I thought it would. But I took the time to really just try to focus on myself. And I think that was very much needed. I have this tendency to keep going and going and pushing myself instead of just taking a moment to pause and to breathe and do something for myself. And I gave myself that time this month, I think. So I'm going to go down the list of some of the things that I did and what I hope to work on in this new month of February. So, first thing, and this was at the top of my list, even like as far as like my focus points that I wanted to work on for this month, my goal was to try to do a yoga challenge. Now, if you guys do yoga at all, if you go on YouTube, or even if you haven't heard of her before, there is a YouTuber named Yoga with Adriene. That is her channel name. Um, and she does a 30-day yoga challenge every year in the month of January. And I've always told myself I'm gonna do it, and I just never have because in my head I've been like 30 days of yoga straight just sounds like a lot. And I decided this year was gonna be the year to do it. So I ended up actually doing it. Now, I will say this, I did not complete the 30 days. And I'll get into why here in a few minutes. But what ended up happening is I decided no matter what the situation was, even though I was going through a hard time, I was going to push myself through it to just take that moment to focus on myself. And yoga is a great form of meditation, even though there is a lot of movement involved. You're really just focusing on your breath and trying to center yourself. And I find that form of meditation a lot easier for me versus your typical where you're sitting down, maybe you've got your eyes closed, and you're just trying to quiet your mind. I struggle with that, but at least with the movement, it helps because I'm doing something with my body, I guess, that kind of takes away all the thoughts that go on in my head when I typically sit down to meditate. But, anyways, so I ended up doing that, and I was actually really, really proud of myself, and I still am, even though I did not complete the 30 days. I got to 25 days, and that was it. I didn't finish it, at least not yet. I do have plans to at least go back and do the 5 days that I have missed. Um, but I just didn't do 30 days straight. So that made me actually extremely happy that I did that, because regardless of whether I finished it or not, this was a goal of mine that I wanted to do. And I had also gone through something really rough right at the start of the month, which would have normally derailed me from doing it entirely. But I didn't let that happen this time. I really wanted to use that time as a healing method for myself. So that was an A plus for this month. I'm gonna give myself a nice little pat on the back for that one, because that is an improvement for me. And that's all I'm looking for. Really and truly in this year, I just want to see improvements of how I deal with things, how I handle situations, anything that is going to help me feel better and happier and more fulfilled. That's what I'm really looking for overall. Because I think if I start setting these goals that are like, oh, I want to travel all year long, doing things like that, I don't find as achievable to me or as realistic or whatever it is. And like, you're always going to strive to want more. But at least if I can focus on myself and be happy and content with who I am, then I think overall I'll lead a happier life. You guys let me know what your thoughts are on that as well. But now, going back to why I didn't finish the 30-day challenge, I ended up feeling really under the weather. So it was this past weekend. I came home. I don't remember if it was a Friday, a Saturday. It was one of these days. I think it was Saturday. I came home from work and my head had been hurting, but I thought it was just because I had just done something like really exciting at work and I was still coming down from being like super excited and hyped up about it, that maybe like I was tensed and caused a tension headache. But then as the night progressed, I started to realize that I just actually really wasn't feeling well. And then our roommate was not feeling well either. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I do not want to get sick. I cannot get sick. Like I'm so tired of being sick. Within like this last year, I feel like I was sick quite a few times, or just really feeling unwell. So I was like, I don't want it again. No. And in my head, I was like, I don't know what it is. Is it COVID? Is it the flu again? Is it a cold? I don't know. But I started getting like, um, kind of really like stuffy in my nose and like headaches, body aches, chills, all kinds of stuff was happening. So I ended up not doing my yoga that night. The next day, I still took it easy because I still wasn't feeling well, and I just wanted to make sure I rested up so that I was able to hopefully feel well enough to go to work the next day. So I just really focused on taking care of myself. And then after that, this like a week has been a week of just not feeling well, and I think my body is just trying to tell me something. But I ended up getting a migraine on Tuesday, which I get them from time to time, but this one was just so bad and it was lingering. So, like, I had gotten it in the afternoon on Tuesday, and it progressively just kind of got worse to the point where I just laid down and I didn't do anything. I just laid in the bed. But then I was hoping once I went to sleep, got up the next morning, I would start to feel better. Wrong. I didn't. I still felt it. It was still lingering there. And I was just like, geez, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. Like, why won't this leave me alone? I slept, I took medicine, and it's still here. It wasn't as bad as it was on Tuesday, but it was definitely still there. And I was stressing myself out about it, which doesn't help anything. So, made it through that. But because of all of this not feeling well, I just did not get back to doing my yoga. I did do a yoga stretch this morning. However, it wasn't a part of that 30-day challenge. But I did some yoga to kind of release the tension and stress that builds up in my neck and shoulders. Because for me, when I get really overwhelmed or really stressed or anxious, I hold all of that in my shoulders and they start to kind of like tense up. So I really needed to do that to prevent a tension headache, which I felt was forming on top of just recovering from a migraine. So that is why I didn't end up finishing it. But like I said, I plan to go back and finish that um, throughout the rest of this month. So, right, so now let's talk about some fun things. Sorry, I just want to mix up my drink here. I'm actually drinking kind of like a little iced mocha here. So, okay. So, yeah, I wanted to do some things for myself. So, I actually at work was talking to one of my coworkers who's really into gaming, and uh she has her own like Twitch channel and stream and all that stuff. I'll get the link from her and I'll link it in this video below. So please check her out and support her. She's awesome, super fun, super sweet. Um, and she basically brought up this game which everybody has been talking about called Palworld. And she had told me the night that or the day that I had seen her, she came in looking like a zombie. And I was like, what is going on with you? Why do you look so tired? And she's like, I did not sleep last night. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I went to bed at 9 o'clock. And I was like, AM, like 9 this morning. And she was like, yeah. I'm like, dude, it's like 12 right now. How are you alive? So she like barely got any sleep. And I was like, why didn't you sleep? She basically had told me that she was up all night playing Palworld. And I was like, okay, I've heard this name before. I just don't know much about the game. Because normally when things are like really hyped up and talked about a lot, I do try to stay away from it. One, because I don't want to do it because everybody else is doing it. But two, also because I know that if I see it and it sounds interesting, I'm going to end up picking it up. And with games, what ends up happening is if it's something that I'm really enjoying, I don't want to do anything else. I guess I'm kind of like that with pretty much anything though. Like if it's a drawing that I'm like really focused on, I don't want to do anything other than draw it. If it's a book that I'm like absolutely loving, I don't want to do anything other than finish the book. If it's a series I'm enjoying, I don't want to do anything other than watch the show. So I guess that's just kind of how my brain works. But for whatever reason, I just decided to start the game. Actually, my stepbrother had messaged me and was like, "Do you have Game Pass on the Xbox?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You should download Power World." And I was, "Don't tell me it's on Game Pass because of course now I'm going to download it." So I went immediately to the Xbox and downloaded the game. I didn't start it that day though, because I needed to make sure that I was actually focusing on the things that I needed to do, like doing my video edits. So the following day, I decided to pick up the game and I was hooked immediately to this game. If you guys have not heard or checked out Pal World, check it out. It's so fun. If you ever used to play Pokemon or if you still play Pokemon, it is very reminiscent of that in terms of the characters very much resemble Pokemon. Um, but it's not like Pokemon. Like the game itself isn't Pokemon. Basically, what you do is you are dropped off on this like island, um, or this world or whatever you call it. I don't remember what it's called now, but um, and you are for one trying to survive. You basically get dropped off with nothing. You barely even have clothes on your back, weapons. You don't really have anything. So you start off by just trying to collect materials and things to like build certain structures, like getting yourself weapons and all that good stuff. Well, the whole premise behind it is there are these pals on this world and they are killing like people that come to this world. And so you either need to catch these pals or you can also kill them. And you also want to defeat the bosses. So I've been having a lot of fun with this game. I've realized that at the beginning, just like most games, it's really easy to level up, but after you reach a certain like level, it becomes increasingly harder to level up. But I've had so much fun, and it's so fun and challenging to try to capture like new pals and stuff like that, or just even seeing like all the pals that like you like are new to you. Because when you first start, you see a lot of the same ones until you start venturing out into the world a little bit more, and then you start to see like a huge variety of them. So I'm so excited to be playing this game. I've really, really truly enjoyed it. And I honestly thank my friend at work for recommending it to me. But again, I want you guys to check her out if you can, please, and support her. She's amazing. So, moving on from that, the next thing is I started rewatching the Lord of the Rings series. I used to love watching these movies when I was younger. I used to watch them all the time with my dad. And the first one, for whatever reason, always makes me laugh. There's so many scenes in there that are just hysterical to me. Um, I this is really weird now that I think about it. I have never read the books. Which now I'm kind of sitting here thinking, why have I not ever read these books? I've watched the movies a million and one times, but I've never read the books. And I'm a big reader. I don't know if you guys know this or not. I also have a channel dedicated to reading. So if you guys love and enjoy reading yourselves, check that out. I'll link that as well. But so I now that I've realized that, I need to actually buy these books and read them. But with that being said, I started rewatching the series. I want to say this, yeah, it was Saturday when I was not feeling well, so I didn't get very far into the first one because if you have ever seen the Lord of the Rings movies, you'll know that they're quite long. Um, but I started to rewatch those, and it's been really nice. Hopefully, we can get back to it this weekend or at some point. I don't know when we'll have time because my weekend is going to be very busy at work. But I've been enjoying rewatching them, and I had been wanting to rewatch them for a little bit, but I didn't realize when I would finally start to watch them again, like how much I would enjoy watching it. So that's been really, really nice. And I don't think I've ever watched those movies with Anthony before. So that's also been a nice experience. But yeah, honestly, I really just wanted to come in here and kind of do a little chit chat with you guys and reflect upon where my month has gone thus far, even though it's been really rough in the beginning and it's still quite difficult to navigate through. I'm doing the best that I can, and that's all that I can do. But I'm super glad for the things that I have done and what I have focused on so far, which is trying to develop my YouTube channels a little bit further and work on my edits, along with doing my yoga and really just trying to take care of myself mentally and physically the best way that I can. So, we'll see what happens in the month of February, but let me know how your guys' year is going for you. And just, but if you're also going through a tough time this year as well, or at least at the start of the year, just remind yourself that it's okay. Things don't always go as they're planned out in your head. But we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep getting through it together. This is a safe space for anyone. So if you ever need to talk, I am here as well. So thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.